people saying the Earth is flat.
Yeah, the world is actually flat.
And the Earth is?
Flat.
Flat.
The Earth is flat.
My reality, my senses tell me that the Earth is flat and stationary.
To hear someone say the Earth is flat as of 2022 may sound ridiculous.
Because people are so contrarian, people are so willing to believe unsubstantiated things that have websites, that they are now going back on the conclusion we have all rightly drawn about the shape of the planet we live on.
But you might want to hold your horses before writing them off as crazy. Who knows? You might even be a worse conspiracy theorist than they are. Here are 10 things that characterize flat earthers, even as of 2022, and why they may be holding on to that belief. 10. They face rejection. If you haven't heard the story of Nate Wolff, well, here it is. And it is a sad one. Nate Wolff is a flat earther. But here's a twist. He is also a pastor.
How is that possible?
Or was anyway. Nate became a flat earther in his innocent and genuine search to find some references for a sermon on the topic of the flood. His query led him to discover the theory of the flat earth. Before he knew what was happening, he was already drawn into it and eventually became a part of its system. Nate was home one fateful Friday morning when the church administration called him to the office. Like a quiet deal, they just slid him a paper across the table and dismissed him with this one statement: "We can't have a member with this kind of association." This is just one of many stories of those who identify with the flat earth theory and the issues they go through daily.
If you're Christian, you can tell people, I'm part of ISIS, but you won't get ridiculed as much as you say you're a flat earther.
9. They are primarily believed by minority groups. In their research, authors of the book American Conspiracies, Joseph Asinski and Joseph Parent, realized that conspiracist thinking cuts across a cross-section of people related by certain factors. This includes loss of societal status, poverty, people considered as the minority, or even those who do not have a high school degree. The two quote, "They tend to resonate when groups are suffering from loss, weakness, or disunity." 8. They find solace in each other. Did you know that both the Japanese military officer who planned the Pearl Harbor attack and the one who commanded the attack forces were trained in America?
On Sunday, December 7th, 1941, shortly before 8 a.m., Japan launched a surprise attack on the United States of America by bombing the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
This was at a time where Japanese studying in America had two goals: to get a good education, to make American friends. Who knows how things may have turned out if these officers had been drawn in a little closer by their American buddies? Flat earthers tend to seek deeper into their belief, not necessarily because it may make the most sense, as you will discover further down this video. It is mostly because they find solace in each other's company. Ask Torito.
Family just got bigger. There's always room for family.
Remember to click that subscribe button now for the most exclusive content in our very next upload. 7. They don't trust the authorities. You should have realized by now that the belief in the flat earth theory is a little more than the theory itself. Many people who become flat earthers usually have a heightened suspicion of the society. Their neurons shoot up when a global pandemic breaks. Their hair stands on end when a bombing occurs. Sometimes it can be as bad as rain falling longer than it should. Don't laugh, this is serious. Their foundational mistrust of people, systems, and especially the authorities is like a pool of flammable liquid, which bursts into flames when a spark of conspiracy theory comes along. This deepens their pre-existing convictions that some people have been deceiving them all this while. Even if that theory says they have been deceived that the world is round.
Everybody here can agree on absolutely one thing, which is it is not a globe.
6. Victims of illusory pattern perception. In 2018, research was conducted where a series of coins were tossed and the outcomes recorded. Of the 10 sequences of all 10 coins, only 2 turned up as tails. A group of people were asked to comment on the result, even though these participants saw the coins tossed right in front of them. Most of them believed it was predetermined because they believed they saw a pattern in the outcome. Other tests, such as finding patterns to randomly painted art pieces and finding profundity in nonsense statements, proved a similar outcome. All of us have demonstrated moments of illusory pattern perception in cases where you saw a rabbit or airplane in a cloud formation. Flat earthers tend to be victims of this psychological phenomenon in its extreme form.
It's kind of like the wife that gets cheated on, and she finds out. Once she finds out, she absolutely watches every move he makes from that point forward.
This is not the only psychological phenomenon they fall victim to, as you will discover going forward. 5. They make up their minds easily. Additionally, one characteristic you would find about flat earthers is their susceptibility to quickly jumping onto decisions without adequate facts or critical analysis. This shows in how quickly they answer questions without pausing to think about them. A 2014 study showed that people who were inclined to think analytically were less prone to subscribing to conspiracy theories. 4. There is a desire for evidence. Let's take a trip back all the way to the middle of the 19th century, to a meeting where one of the leading advocates of the flat earth theory, Samuel Robotham, was addressing a crowd that was still deciding on the madness or genuineness of his message. In that meeting, he made a profound statement that would shape the trajectory of this aesthetic science. "Only believe what you can personally observe," he said. Over hundreds of years later, this statement would drive the minds of the disciples of this theory to sometimes costly points, like what happened to 65-year-old Mike Hughes. Mike was so moved by the need to prove once and for all that the Earth was flat and not round that he built a rocket by himself. And the full glare of spectators shot up into the sky.
I will fire a rocket and it will pull me by my shoulders 42 miles at 1.5 G into the edge of space.
Unfortunately, Mike's rocket couldn't take up high enough to prove the shape of the Earth, but at least he would get to find out whether eternity was real or not. 3. Victims of proportionality bias. If not trained or tamed, the brain can lead us into temptations. Temptations to prove a matter once and for all, draw conclusions, or simply cause us to decide to flee. Sometimes this is good because it is an adaptive organic technology that helps you avoid danger. Remember the last time you heard a rustle in the bush near you, or that unexplained noise in that dark corner, and decided to take evasive action? That is precisely it. However, sometimes this can blow out of proportion. Proportionality bias is a psychological phenomenon where people believe that if something big or dramatic happened, then something of equal magnitude must have caused it. Unfortunately, this is the other kind of psychological bias flat earthers become victims to. Something as big as the entire world believing that the globe is round can only be connected to some big organization being behind the deception. 2. A need for uniqueness. One significant thing that drives people to believe in the flat theory is simply the need to belong. In a world where patterns and repetitions are all too common, people seek day in and day out to find something that makes them stand out. Sometimes it gets so bad that they would hold on to anything that would make them feel the least bit special. If believing that the Earth is flat gets me the attention, why not? 1. They start out like everyone else.
I talk to people about, hey, I went to this Flat Earth conference. Everyone's like, what are they like? What are they like? Are they crazy? Are they stupid? And it's like, no, they're not crazy or stupid. They're very normal.
Every single individual on Earth is born a clean slate. Our beliefs, experiences, and identities are formed from exposures over time. Flat earthers are no different, and they are not manufactured individuals.
We're all normal people.
They're just like you and me. They have family, have a life, and are probably richer than you and I. Consider the example of Gary Heather, who effortlessly rested on the belief that the Earth was round for 50 years, until he came across a 2-hour, 5 minutes, and 43-second video which transformed him into a staunch flat Earth believer. He called it a kind of awakening. In 2018, he organized a flat Earth convention that saw over 260 people in attendance. Do these facts change your perception of flat earthers? Do you think you could have easily become one yourself? Let us know in the comment section. See you in our next video.